All right, guys, we're doing an overview of literary devices in Romeo and Juliet, thinking about what's going to really shape our analysis of the play. The first new literary device we need to know is aside. Aside is a remark or passage by the characters. They turn and face the audience. The moment in the scene stops and pauses. All the other characters freeze, except for the one character that's turning and says a quick comment or statement to the audience. We see this a lot in movies, especially in like Jim Carrey's really famous for this, especially in the Grinch version, the Jim Carrey version of the Grinch, where he turns to the audience or to the camera and makes a quick comment. But other characters in the play do not hear the comment. Next we have couplets. Couplets are two lines of verse that form a unit. They're just back-to-back lines that rhyme. This is found at the end of a sonnet, and Shakespeare uses them in his lines in his plays to really emphasize important lines. So anytime you see a couplet, know that's important for the play. Epithets are titles or nicknames for characters. We see this in popular culture all the time. Michael Jackson's epithet is the King of Pop, for example. Queen Bey is Beyonce's epithet. So we have lots of different nicknames or titles for people in popular culture. Same thing for the characters in Shakespeare. Motivation, we kind of know about character motivation, what drives the character to do certain things. And then pre-AP, we reviewed types of irony: dramatic, situational, verbal. Make sure that you refresh your memory that dramatic is we know something that the character doesn't. Situational, the opposite of what we expect happens. And then verbal is sarcasm. And we'll see all three types in Shakespeare. A prologue is a separate introductory section of a literary work, specifically a play or a movie. We see prologues in front of each act of Romeo and Juliet, and they kind of give some basic information or context that we need to know before the play continues on. In Star Wars, we see this also with the prologue before each movie starts. It gives you kind of the background information before beginning the film. Puns are jokes that exploit different meanings of a word, or the fact that there are words that sound similar but maybe mean something different. So I love these two memes. Here is a llama with a hat saying, "An adventure, I'll pack on my bags." The pun is the word alpaca is another word for llama, and it sounds very similar to all pack. Again, a play on words there. Here we've misspelled the word appealing to make a joke with the banana. It's wearing a top hat and mustache and glasses. Appealing is usually spelled with an A to say like, hey, I like this this attire, this clothing's cool. But it says appealing because he's a banana. Duh. Monologues are long speeches directed to the audience by a single character. Monologues are different than asides that we first learned because they're not short little snippets, they're extended speeches. So it's important to remember that an aside is quick and short, while a monologue is a long speech. A soliloquy, on the other hand, is similar to a monologue in that it's an extended speech by a character, but the character is not aware that anyone is listening in a soliloquy. It's almost like we're reading their mind, or that they're speaking their thoughts out loud, and they're completely unaware that anyone's listening, versus a monologue, it's directed to the audience, so of course they're aware that the audience is listening. An allusion is any indirect reference to something in culture, whether that's pop culture, history, current events. Sometimes we call these Easter eggs or references. Those are synonyms for allusion. There are some types of allusions you should consider, especially with Shakespeare. Biblical allusions are pretty common. If you call someone a good Samaritan, you're alluding to the story of the Samaritan that saved the man on the side of the road. So you're basically saying if someone's a good Samaritan, that they're a kind person. A literary allusion might come from a novel or a play that's in popular culture. If you call someone a Scrooge, you're referring to Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, and you're saying, hey, they're stingy, they're kind of rude, not very nice. And again, that's an allusion whenever you do that. Pop culture allusions, James Dean is referenced in Taylor Swift's lyric there. He's a famous actor from the 50s and 60s, and that allusion is to create the idea that this person that Taylor Swift is singing to is supposed to be handsome. And then there's also mythological allusions, like Greek or Roman mythology. Achilles, his heel was his weak spot. So if you say that math class was my Achilles heel, that's what you're referring to. Achilles was a warrior that was super strong, except in his ankle, and he was shot in the ankle by an arrow and died. So basically you're saying, hey, I'm really good at school, but math is my weakness. That's what it means if you said that was your Achilles heel. Let's watch a short clip from Shrek 2. It's a little bit of a dated movie, but there's a ton of allusions in this opening sequence. Let's see if you can't catch them all. All right, already in our opening scene, we have two allusions. You can see the Gingerbread House, an allusion or reference to Hansel and Gretel, that fairy tale, and the Cinderella carriage in the shape of an onion, but still an allusion to the fairy tale Cinderella. You'll notice in Shrek they have tons of fairy tale allusions.
So she said, what's the problem, baby? What's the problem? I don't know. Well, maybe I'm in love. Think about it every time I think about it. Can't stop thinking about it. How much longer will it take to cure this? Just to cure it, cause I can't ignore it. If it's love, love makes me wanna turn.
Here's another allusion, right? We see an allusion there. See if you can't guess what it is. Yep, that's right. Red Riding Hood.
Around and face me, but I don't know nothing about love. Oh, come on, turn a little faster. Come on, the world will follow after. Come on, everybody's after love. So
What's that allusion there? Does that mermaid look familiar to you? Yep, it's Ariel.
I said I'm a snowball running down into the spring that's coming. All this love melting under blue skies, belting out sunlight, shimmering love.
Here's another important allusion.
Surrender to the strawberry ice cream, never ever under all this love. What do you need to
That allusion is a little bit dated, but it's referring to the Lord of the Rings movies. There's a scene in which Frodo catches the ring on his finger, just like Fiona did in that moment.
do it, but there's no escaping your love. These lines of lightning mean we're never alone, never alone. No, come on.
The notion of monsters being attacked by torches and pitchforks is a cliche fairy tale trope, and therefore also a reference or an allusion.
Come on if you feel a little lighter. Come on. We were once upon a time. We're accidentally in love.
All right, that last one was a reference from Spider-Man, an allusion to Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire when he's hanging upside down, and Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane kisses him. Again, I told you it's a little bit of a dated series of allusions, but allusions are references nonetheless. All right, let's continue on to idioms. Idioms are expressions or phrases where we're saying something that we don't actually literally mean. So if you say, look outside, it's raining cats and dogs, obviously cats and dogs are not literally falling from the sky. You're just saying it's raining really heavily outside. If you say every cloud has a silver lining, you're just saying, hey, look on the bright side, think positive, everything's going to be okay. If we play our cards right means, hey, let's make the right moves, do the right decisions to get what we want. But you're not literally playing cards. So here are a few idioms and pictures. I want you to see, starting with the picture on the left with these boats hanging in the sky, can you guess the idiom that is being portrayed? Right? Pause and take a guess. You should have guessed whatever floats your boat, right? The boats are floating in the air. That's an allusion, or excuse me, an idiom, meaning, hey, let's kind of go with the flow, let's do whatever. But now let's try this one. Yep, you should have said apple of my eye. If you say someone is the apple of your eye, that just means that you feel very passionately towards them, that you care and love them. Here, let's try this one next. It's a turkey with a hat and a sweater. Yep, quitting cold turkey is an idiom that means, for example, if you were a smoker and you wanted to quit cold turkey, you just immediately stop smoking cigarettes and not wean yourself off of them, but immediately quit. Now let's try this next one. Yes, I'm all ears is the idiom portrayed in that picture, basically saying, hey, I'm listening to you very attentively, but it's not being literal. Sometimes we say things like there's a frog in my throat, right? So here we have that idiom portrayed there, but let's take a guess as to what this one is. Yep, maybe your parents have said this one before. Eyes in the back of my head just means I'm watching you carefully. Well, the frog in your throat just means you've got a cough or something in your throat. All right, next is paradox. This is a phrase or a statement that kind of contradicts itself. It seems like it would be logical, but it's not. So for example, if someone says, I'm nobody, that's a paradox because obviously you're somebody, you exist. The fact that you're speaking means you exist. But when you say I'm nobody, you're just saying, hey, I'm trying to be humble, I'm not anyone important. A couple other examples here that I'll point out. Alone in a crowd is a great paradox example in that, no, you're not actually alone. That doesn't make sense. To be alone in a crowd, you're just saying I'm feeling lonely despite being surrounded by people. So paradoxes are extremely common. There's just a couple other examples. Literary devices continued. We're talking about oxymoron next. It's similar to a paradox because it contradicts itself, but it's just two words versus a paradox is a phrase. Oxymorons are just two words put together that contradict each other. So jumbo shrimp, right? Jumbo meaning large, shrimp meaning small. How could shrimp be jumbo? That doesn't make sense. Brutally handsome or disgustingly pretty. Just things that contradict each other but are used together to make a point. All right, I want to watch a short video about iambic pentameter just to kind of review what we've already learned, and then we'll be good to go. And that's all we got for today. Thanks for watching.